Areas Talk Radio.
What's going on, guys? We're back again for another episode, and this one I am so stoked about. First off, I want to thank Dave Miller for allowing me to host this show on his 51 Areas internet radio station. You know, previously I've been doing this show on my own stream. He reached out to me about a week ago, and we decided that I was going to be doing my live sessions now here on 51 Areas Internet Radio. So again, thank you for Dave Miller for that. We're going to be joined by Richard Wade, who's also going to be doing his show, Conspiracy Order. I think he's featuring his first episode this Saturday. So we brought Richard on. We've got Dave doing his 51 Areas Oddity Talk Radio, and then my show, Out of the Shadows podcast. So tonight, I'm doing something that's a little bit out of my comfort zone. I'm definitely have never publicly spoke about this topic with anyone before. So it is something that I'm not as knowledgeable about. So hopefully that can translate to you guys. So some of the questions that I may ask might kind of help you guys understand it from the ground level, because I don't have a whole lot of insight to this particular thing. So we are going to be talking about Bigfoot tonight. I've always wanted to do a show on Bigfoot. I grew up in North Carolina and in Georgia mostly for most of my life, and I've heard different stories from people who've encountered Bigfoot. And recently, a story broke that's pretty close to my hometown about a sighting of Bigfoot. Now, I know, as far as my understanding is, most of the sightings of Bigfoot are in the Pacific Northwest, but there are some sightings that happen down here near where I live. So tonight's guest has been studying and researching Bigfoot for years. She's here to tell you the story, to tell you her story, and to help answer any questions that I've always wanted to ask about this particular being. I heard her on another podcast back in November of 2016, and I knew that if I ever did an episode on Bigfoot, that she was the one that I wanted to have on to talk about it. So I've actually had people call me this weekend, this morning, in fact, even up to this morning, telling me that I was completely crazy for doing a Bigfoot episode. Now, I don't think it's necessarily that crazy. Well, I mean, the chances are that it very well could possibly be out there. And she's going to clear some of the air for us tonight with this. You know, everyone has their opinions, especially about this subject, but I just want to present this episode as completely open-minded as possible and try not to tune this out, because I think there's some things that we're going to discuss tonight that maybe don't seem so crazy at all, right? So think about this before you completely shut it down. There's one way to ask people about Bigfoot. You could come up to them and you could just say, "Do you believe in Bigfoot?" And they're going to say, "No, man, you're crazy. There's no way. There's absolutely no way." But there's another way to ask it, right? What if you were to ask, do you think that there is a possibility that within this vast amount of forest that humans have not taken over as their own, that a creature or a small family such as the Bigfoot could be out there, and they could potentially be the reason for some of the discoveries and the evidence that we do have currently, right? So let's go ahead and let's welcome Edie Caito to the show. Thank you for joining us. Edie, are you there?
I'm here.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking your time to come on the show tonight. I'm really excited about this one. Now, I read over your bio, and it mentions what sounds to me like your first experience with Bigfoot. You mentioned that one crossed in front of your headlight beams while you're driving down the road. Can you tell us a little bit about your beliefs prior to you seeing that encounter, and if you would go into some details about that particular experience?
Well, beforehand, I was probably one of the most skeptical people you can imagine about Bigfoot. My husband and I had started camping that spring and summer together and spending a lot of time in the forest, and we would make fun of people who went around and knocked on trees and would make calls to Bigfoot, because we just joked about it. We did not any way, shape, or form believe that something that big could exist without people seeing it more often. So it was later in the summer, probably getting closer to fall, I believe. I can't remember exactly, but we were out driving, and actually it was the beginning of summer, and we were out driving around the forest area, and we went around one of these gravel roads that we had not been down before. Really creepy. There was no lighting back there whatsoever. So we had the brights on. We were kind of creeping along, and all of a sudden, this massive creature, that's all I could say at the time was a creature, just come barreling out of the woods across the street and into the woods on the other side. And my husband stopped the car, and I swear to God, the man looked like he had seen a ghost.
Really? Now, how far was this in front of your vehicle? Was it really close or kind of more in the distance?
Oh, it was maybe 20 feet at the most.
That's pretty close.
He was close enough to where we could tell that if he stood, he would be way, way taller than our car.
Wow.
I mean, he was enormous. He was in almost a all-fours position because he was running. But, of course, you could tell that the arms were much longer. And so he was kind of at a slant as he ran. And the thighs on this thing were enormous. The arms, it had no neck. And living in Indiana, the biggest creatures we have running around out here are deer. Mm-hmm. And there was no way that this was a deer because those legs were huge. And it took a couple of weeks for it to kind of sink in before, we realized, our brain just didn't compute what it saw. And we were both saying no, because we were both thinking Bigfoot, but we didn't want to admit Bigfoot. And so we did a little looking around the internet and saw that there had been previous sightings in that area over the years and things like that. So we contacted Leroy Nail, who runs the Indiana Bigfoot Research Organization out of Martinsville. And we got together with them and told the story. And he said, well, he goes, it's interesting that you contacted me because just 2 weeks ago there was a sighting less than a mile from here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so we talked for a long time. They took us out. They showed us different things to look for, like tree structures and tree breaks that were, seemingly in the middle of a perfectly fine forest, just a fresh tree just snapped 12 feet up. No sense of that whatsoever. There are X's. And so they kind of gave us, just the basics, what we would need to know and look for. And then the next time we went camping, we saw that entire forest in a completely different light and realized that all this time, these things were going on around us that we didn't even realize were going on. Hearing footsteps at night, which I don't even know why we blew those off. Screams in the middle of the night. We were thinking, oh, what kind of animal is that? Seeing the tree breaks that weren't there the day before, and there was no rain or storms or wind or anything. It was really kind of